frameworks and libraries, both of them, but Java, of course, has overwhelmingly more libraries and frameworks. Java has the largest enterprise installed base, so C Sharp is gaining more adoption. Things are going great there, but far and away, the existing installed base of Java is there. So we'll expect Java to be king of the back end for quite a while. I don't know for how long, but that's the current state. So let me talk about some of the skills that are important that a lot of software engineering companies like my own companies, Orange and Bronson EduSuite, are looking for. Okay. So one is understanding safe coding practices, right? The back end, it's hard to detect bugs. So we need people who understand safe coding practices to prevent bugs. All right. So normally I have exercises, code examples, and I have people figure out how code can be improved to be safer, but we don't have that time. So for example, here, understanding that in this situation, you need a defensive copy. Well, one is you validate the parameters, and that's one of the most basic ways to have safe coding. Parameter validation. And then here, one of the things that should be obvious to a good software engineer, but not commonly taught, is that in this case, you need to have a defensive copy. You can't just take a mutable parameter. You can't have a mutable field and I'll just take it from the parameter from outside. You should only have a copy, right? Even going outside, even the getters, you should only return a defensive copy, not return the actual field if the class itself, if the class of the field is mutable. Very risky. Then there's prefer immutability, making sure your fields are final, avoiding setters, right? I have an entire 5-day course on these things. A lot of profs have taken it, and I've tortured them in 5 days to understand the safe coding practices. Understanding design patterns and anti-patterns. Design patterns are recurring good solutions, known solutions to recurring problems. Anti-patterns are common mistakes that people think are good practices, but they keep repeating it. All right. I don't have time to go through all these. Each design patterns class will take to deal with it properly will take at least 2 or 3 days or even more. But I encourage every software engineer should understand design patterns and anti-patterns. Cloud it's impossible to have a decent career, especially if you're on the back end, without a good understanding of the cloud. And if you have a certification on the cloud, that certainly sets you apart. When CS profs interview me, hey, besides learning computer science, what should our students learn? What certification should they gain? I always tell them, encourage them to get an AWS certification before they graduate. That will set them far apart from all their competition. All right. Here again, I don't have time to run through these exercises, but here, understanding concurrency, right? Here, there's a race condition. I don't know if you can see the race condition. You have to understand how that something that works on your own machine, because you're testing it on a single thread, won't work in the back end where you might have 1,000 threads doing the same thing concurrently. All right, so computer science programs should teach students how to write code that is safe even in a concurrent environment. Some CS programs teach their students how to create threads and how to create concurrency, but not how to write code that is safe in a heavily concurrent environment. So understanding concurrency is essential. So many mistakes, so many deadly mistakes will happen if you don't understand how to write safe code in a concurrent environment. I don't have time to go through. Testing, well, this is a test a simple test um, for testing a concurrent test. It's a test that launches multiple threads to test the code if it's safe in a multi-threaded environment. And having said that, test automation is essential. And I don't mean testing the UI. Don't bother with things like at the undergrad level. If you're a CS student, maybe if you're an IT student or IS student, you can bother with things like Robot Framework or Selenium. But for CS students, you need to understand JUnit. All right. So testing, not UI testing, but automated testing against for specific methods at the method level. So if you understand how to use JUnit, understand test-driven development, again, these are essential skills for any back-end developer. Test automation and test-driven development, because you write the tests first, right? You write the test before you write the production code. It influences your design, and you end up writing better code because you write your tests first. You think about your tests first. And it's also a great way to document your code because the first thing you look at is the code examples. And that's exactly what unit tests are, right? So it leaves great documentation for the people who are maintaining, going to maintain the code, right? So it's more reliable. I'm actually not a fan of code comments. I'd rather have clean code and plenty of unit tests. And of course, you can't have DevOps if you don't know anything about test automation. Relational databases, one of my frustrations. Many devs, in fact, it seems like all the devs from any school are very poor on the database side. They don't understand how to write efficient queries, efficient schemas, when to normalize and when to denormalize, how to avoid deadlocks, how to have transactional integrity. Terrible. Most of the database skills of computer science grads today are just awful. So, but again, this is essential to the back end. So you need to have great skills in the database, and this will set you apart if you do. Right. And then there's communication and leadership, which is half the success of any type of engineer. Communication and leadership. I think this has been emphasized over and over again by other speakers. Just a bit about one of my companies, Orange and Bronze. We provide more training than any other company in the Philippines. And we sponsor not just training, we train other companies. We provide training and advisory service for other companies, but we also provide training on on design and development, leadership, and we provide sponsored certifications throughout your career. We have the best developers and best mentors. And because we're considered the country's thought leader in software development. And we have a very objective promotion process, even if you're the type that it's just about how if you're able to perform your metrics, being able to deliver and satisfy the requirements of the client, and your growth in your skills and certifications. All right. So sometimes people from fresh grad we've had some people in 6 years, from fresh grad to they've made it to senior, so they already have 6-digit salaries 6 years into their career. Right. Our mission is adopt best practices and share them with others. If you're interested, visit orangeandbronze.com/careers. All right. That's it. I hope I made it under 20 minutes.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Legaspi. Mr. Legaspi is also part of our panel discussion later. So any questions related to his presentation, we'll try to answer that later. Okay? So for our next speaker has been involved in strategic capability development and digital transformation consulting initiatives at Accenture, IBM, Point West, Teradata, and now as Chief Analytics Officer of eClaro. Let's all welcome Mr. Sherwin Pelayo.
Good afternoon. Magandang hapon sa inyo lahat. Thank you for the invitation. I'm honored to be here together with the future workforce for technology for our country. So what I'd like to discuss for you today is something that I'm really passionate about. Mon and Kailan actually started, some discussions about, the workplace skills, and then Kailan started about talking about some of the skills needed that is related to data. So I'd like to hone in some more on those. Let's talk about data. Let's talk about analytics. At the end of this short presentation, I hope that you do realize that you are actually, in fact, doing analytics already. And this is a call for you to actually do more, regardless of whatever career you're going to be, after graduating from your degrees. Okay, so let's start off by siguro mga konting kwento. Si Mang Isko is a yellow corn farmer. And gaya ng mga magsasaka natin sa Pilipinas, Philippines still primarily an agriculture country, masinop si Mang Isko in taking note of the things that he does every time that he goes out to his yellow corn farm. So may notebook siya and he makes sure that he takes note of kailan siya nagtatanim, ano yung tinanim niya, anong klaseng corn yung tinanim niya, anong fertilizer ginagamit niya, kailan siya nagdidilig at ganong amount of water yung kanyang ginagamit. Okay, so every day na or every time na nagtatanim siya, every time na nag-harvest siya, and all of the activities in between nire-record ni Mang Isko yan. During the harvest season, palaging tinitingnan ni Mang Isko, so ano na ba talaga yung yield ko, gaano kadami yung na-harvest ko. And since meron siyang notebook ng mga harvest niya for the past seasons, nakikita niya na may mga times na tumataas, dumadami yung harvest niya, may mga times na bumababa yung yield ng kanyang yellow corn farm. So based on those na nakolekta niya over time, he's able to see some kind of trend or pattern na parang there are times na doon sa mga times na ang taas ng yield niya, ganitong type of fertilizer ginamit niya, ganitong time of the year siya plant, ganito siya ka-often magdilig, at even yung positioning ng mga seeds kung gaano kalayo, somehow nakikita niya it actually affects yung amount of yield na nakukuha niya every harvest season. So now based on that knowledge na may mga certain combination ng fertilizer, amount of water, distance planting, sabi niya, okay, kailangan kong baguhin kasi ayaw naman niya na nagte-trend pababa yung amount of harvest niya. So gusto niya constant, either constant or tumataas. So may mga binago siya. Alam na niya na ito yung optimal time to plant, optimal distance, and then anong klaseng fertilizer and gaano ka often siya nagdidilig. Okay? Of course, it's going to be a continuous process. So tuloy pa rin. Kahit na nakikita niya tumataas, syempre gusto niya pa rin niyang tumaas ng tumaas. So may continuous improvement na ginagawa si Mang Isko. So tuloy pa rin yung take down niya ng information dun sa mga ginagamit niya sa kanyang yellow corn farm. So patuloy yung cycle na yun. Yan si Mang Isko. Punta naman natin si Aling Lala. Si Aling Lala may sari-sari store. So may malit na tindahan si Aling Lala. Gaya ng mga isko, may notebook din siya. And every day, every time na may transaction, may bibili sa kanya, ino-note niya dun sa notebook niya, sinong bumili, anong binili niya, ilan ang binili, magkano. At importante, tinetake note niya, nagbayad ba or nangutang. Pinalista lang ba nung bumili. So, may ganun siya. Every transaction sa buong araw, nire-record ni Aling Lala sa kanyang notebook. At the end of the day, syempre, kinakalculate niya magkano yung kita niya. May puhunan pa ba siya kinabukasan? May natira pa ba dun sa products na tinitinda niya? Baka naubusan na siya. May mga products bang hindi nabebenta at baka mag-expire na? Kasi may mga products naman talaga na nag-expire. Since kinokolekta niya yung information na yon, every day, nakikita din niya yung trend ng kanyang kita. So, kinukumpara niya ngayon, yung kita ko ba ngayong araw na to, mas mataas o mas mababa kahapon, mas mataas, mas mababa same time last month or same time last year. So, tinitingnan niya yon kasi syempre, bilang negosyante, gusto ni Aling Lala na yung kita niya palaging mataas, di ba? Hindi siya nalulugi. Okay, so tinignan yon. So nakikita niya na may mga certain products siyang sinesell na mabenta during certain parts of the year. So may mga mabenta during summer, merong mga mabenta during rainy season. Okay, so based on that knowledge na nakita niya doon sa ninonote niya na information, alam na ngayon ni Aling Lala kailan siya magbebenta ng certain products during summer at kailan siya magbebenta ng certain products during rainy season. And again, gusto niyang magtuloy-tuloy na hindi na siya nalulugi. So patuloy niyang nagte-take down ng notes every time na may bibili sa kanya. Ayan si Aling Lala. Medyo punta tayo sa sarili natin. Ito yung kwento ni Johnny at ang kanyang student allowance. Tawag ko dito the story of Johnny and his vanishing allowance. Okay. May allowance tayo lahat, di ba? Bilang estudyante. Siguro karamihan sa inyo, or well, tingnan natin, keep track nyo ba lahat ng mga gastusin ninyo based dun sa allowance na binibigay sa inyo ng mga parents or guardians inyo? Si Johnny does that. So, pamasahe, school supplies, pagkain. Siyempre, somehow, kailangan din niyang some form of entertainment. So, may mga ginagastos siya na ganong mga bagay. So, kinikip track niya yun. Tinetake down niya yung ganong klaseng expenses na ginagamit niya. Binibigyan siya ng mga magulang niya ng allowance every time na sumasweldo yung mga magulang niya, which is about around 15th or the 30th. So, kinsenas. Kumbaga, nagkakaroon din siya ng allowance. Napupunan ni Johnny na, I mean, there are times talaga, there are certain days in the month na wala na siyang allowance, na ubusan na siya ng allowance. So, doon sa notebook kung saan niya kinukuha, nino-note down lahat ng kanyang mga gastos, nakita niya, okay, a few days after may allowance siya, kaya pa, pero nagkakaroon na ng yellow days, mga 5 days after noon. And then talagang 3 days before niya magkaroon ulit ng allowance, wala na, halos na wala na. Pagdating ng 30th, wala na talaga. Okay, so, syempre ayaw nun na ayaw ni Johnny ng gano'n. So tinitingnan niya ngayon, kailan ba siya talaga dapat gumastos? Ano ba dapat yung gastusin niya para ang maging itsura ng kanyang kalendaryo pag gumagastos siya ng allowance is, may enough buffer siya na hindi siya talaga nauubusan ng allowance. Okay. May problema siya pag 31 days in a month kasi talagang yung huling-huling araw, medyo may problema pa rin siya. Okay, so pero at least na nabawasan niya yung sa mga aming nagtatrabaho, tawag nila mga petsa de peligro na talaga yan. Okay, so na halos wala na talaga. Pero at least nag-improve at gusto pang mag-improve ni Johnny para totally walang red dun sa kanyang calendar of allowance. Kaya tuloy pa rin yung pag-take down niya ng notes kung may dun sa mga pinagkakagastusan niya. Okay, so itong istorya ni Mang Isko, ni Aling Lala, at ni Johnny, hopefully ngayon nakikita nyo na parang ginagawa nyo din naman to sa pang-araw-araw, di ba? May mga allowance kayo para kayo si Johnny. So iniisip nyo din yung ganito mga bagay. Ito actually sa analytics. Kaya sinasabi ko, sa simula, sinabi ko sa inyo, na actually ginagawa nyo na talaga yung analytics. Okay? In one form or another. And itong mga kwento na to, actually totoong mga kwento ito na ginawa na nagkaroon ako ng mga projects dito sa Pilipinas na ganito talaga yung ginagawa. Yung si Mang Isko is a totoong yellow corn farmer sa Isabela. Ginawa namin sila ng isang project that will allow them to really maximize their yellow corn farm yield. Yung practice kasi nila noon is based on pamahiin. Bawal magtanim kung may nanganak na may pinanganak na babae sa kanilang barangay. So yung mga ganon. So we're telling them na may kailangan kayong information na nakunin para mas mataas yung yield niyo. Aling Lala is a part of a cooperative na natulungan namin also to maximize their earnings. And Johnny is one of the customers of a bank na natulungan din namin so that they can maximize their savings. So these are real stories, these are real applications of analytics. Pero gaya nga sinabi ni Kellen kanina, very nascent pa, medyo bago ba rin talaga itong analytics na ginagawa natin sa Pilipinas. Kaya kailangan namin ng mga ng future workforce na kayo para lalong lumaki yung workforce natin in analytics. Medyo maging a bit technical, yung nakikita yung life cycle kanina, yung kulay orange, that's actually the data life cycle. Ito yung ginagawa talaga ng analytics. Analytics increases the value of data as it transforms data